3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 170. And I think I said last time we're trying to get right into episodes, and we're going to try to get right into it.
You don't like our silly little banter in the beginning?
Our banter is exclusively to try to figure out what we're going to talk about. So
yeah, I guess you're right.
When we have something to talk about,
we don't need it
for it. So okay, so this morning I had no idea what we were going to talk about on the podcast. I didn't. I was like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to have to figure it out. We're going to need to do some bantering to figure out what to talk about. And Josh got here a little bit later than normal because I was sleeping in and because I was at the shop all night last night. And I figured I just picked my dogs up from boarding. They were all, they were boarded for maybe like 8, 9 days. And they were just like a little bit cooped up. And I was like, I'm going to go into the field around the corner from the house here. And I'm going to go play chuck it with them for a little bit. Okay. Right. So I go there and I'm playing chuck it. And I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I've got 4 dogs off leash right now, running, having the time of their life, playing chuck it. Mm-hmm. This is a great way for me to burn off some steam with them, to practice some training with them, kind of take some of the edge off of them a little bit. But this is something that doesn't just happen, right? Mm-hmm. Like you don't just like have a dog that's really great at like playing chuck it. Sometimes when you're playing chuck it or playing ball or catch or anything like that with your dogs, sometimes you could actually create a lot of problems if you're not doing it properly. So basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to come up with and compile the rules of play when it pertains to playing these high arousal, intense games with your dogs and go over some like do's and don'ts for it. I actually took some videos of me doing some stuff with my dogs while doing it. And it highlights a couple of like really cool little training exercises and stuff that I like to do with them. And we're just going to kind of really get into the weeds of like playing with your dog, but playing with your dog in a way that's helping, not hurting. Right? Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, let's talk about how could play be hurting, right? Yeah. I think a lot of times, flip this over so I don't get distracted. I think, a lot of times when you think about play, you think of it's just like a fun activity you're playing with your dog and it's not a problem. And how could you ever create problems in playing with your dog, right? Common misconceptions, right? Play, when it pertains to these high arousal, like prey drive games, like chasing a ball, right? Or playing tug with your dog or doing those types of things. It's a really, really neurotic state of mind you're putting your dog into that, when not channeled properly, can really spiral out of control. I've had millions and millions of times where clients have told me they play with their dog, they throw a ball for their dog, and it's like they need to stop their dog from playing because they get so crazy obsessed with it, right? One test that they do in shelters with dogs that I think I saw in like a Dogs Play for Life clip was they'll take a toy and when they go to end the game with the toy, they test what the dog does when they end the game, because a lot of dogs, because they get into such a high intensity prey drive state of mind, they can't stop. They have to get the perceived prey, right? So they'll be jumping, biting, nipping. They could hurt people accidentally. They're getting themselves into a frenzy, right? It could just get so out of control really, really fast, right? Then you have your other side of dogs, which are just the ones that like casually enjoy chasing a ball and it's not a big problem and whatever. You don't run into major issues with it, but still we want to make sure that we're utilizing this state of mind that we're putting our dogs into, this high drive state of mind we're putting the dogs into, and ensuring that they could still control themselves while in that state of mind, right? Another way that it can hurt, right? When playing with multiple dogs, one of the number one places people tell me that dogs get into fights is when they're throwing a ball and multiple dogs are going for that ball at the same time. They all get to it at the same time and a squabble ensues and then they get into a big fight over it. Right? That's 2 reasons, right? Reason 1 is they're all competing for the same resource. So resource guarding is taking play. But the other thing is because they're in such a prey-driven state of mind, their whole mentality is go chase, grab, catch, and frankly, if you look at like what they would be doing if it was an animal, is kill the prey.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you have multiple dogs, that could easily get redirected onto each other accidentally, right? So you have to be mindful of all of these types of things. So I broke down my rules of play here. I want to kind of just take them one at a time, go through them, talk about them a little bit, and then kind of go from there. Josh, is Bender a player?
No.
Really?
No.
He's not a player.
No. He hates playing.
Really?
Yeah.
With anything?
Anything. Has no
interest.
No interest at all.
All right.
All he loves is food.
All he loves is food.
Yeah. Literally, you'll throw a ball or a stick or something. He'll chase after it, and then he's like, and just doesn't care about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he likes to chase it.
Yeah, he
He
will.
just doesn't like to do anything with it once he catches it?
No.
Okay.
He'll tug a little bit. That's about his play limit.
Okay. So, no, that's okay. Because that kind of gets into rule number 1, which is not even really a rule, but it's kind of a prerequisite more than anything, which is build drive for the game, right? So obviously I just spent all this time talking about, how it could create problems when the dogs get too driven for the game and there's not enough impulse control and stuff like that. But I think a lot of times people shoot themselves in the foot if they want to utilize play for something like training, or they want to utilize play for something like, burning energy off or providing physical and mental stimulation, stuff like that, is they try to add too much control to the game too quickly, right? So yes, there are absolutely varying levels of intensity of dogs liking to play, right? But in many cases, I think a lot of people create this picture in their head of play with their dog with something like a ball should be you wait, I throw it, you get it, you bring it back, you let it go immediately, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of control if you really break it down early on. Those are a lot of individual pieces that you have to teach, right? Waiting for the ball, that's a piece that you have to teach, right? Chasing the ball, generally they know how to do that. Obviously, as you said, Bender even kind of knows how to chase it, right? Bringing the ball back, that independently is a piece you have to teach, right? Letting go of the ball, that's something that you independently have to teach, right? And if you try to focus on all of those things at once, the whole purpose of play, which is the dog enjoying themselves and burning off some steam and having a good time, goes immediately out the window.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So commonly we hear people talk about my dog doesn't like play, and I'll have them show me like, how are you playing with your dog, right? And they're asking the dog to do 8 million things, and it's just the dog's like, what the fuck? Like, there's no point in this. Like, this is not fun for me, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a dog like that, like let's say Bender, we wanted to build drive, right, for the game, right, and get him to start playing.
Yeah.
I would figure out what piece of the equation does this dog really like to do first, and let's create some drive for doing that thing. So Ivan Balabanov talks a lot about, he was one of the first guys, I think, to break the mold of what play should look like, because I think historically, especially in the working dog world, everybody looked at play as like tugging, let it go, tugging, let it go, tugging, let it go, right? And they didn't want like really the possessiveness over the toy. They just wanted the dog to be basically compliant and play in this picture of what we wanted, right? And I remember Ivan came out with a DVD called The Possession Games, where he basically talked about every dog likes different things in the play process, right? And that's something, I gotta write that down. Hold on. That's a video we should do some review of here soon. Okay. So whatever. So he talked about every dog likes something different, right? So historically, and a lot of this is going to apply to the working dog world, but it applies to your pet dogs as well, right? Okay. Historically, a lot of people deter when they're playing with the dog. If they let the dog win the toy, if the dog doesn't immediately bring it back, right, or let it go for you, they're immediately trying to find solutions for how do we fix that problem right away, and they wind up killing a lot of the drive and the enjoyment of the game. Where Ivan said, well, if I release the toy and the dog wins it, and the dog's favorite thing to do in that moment is to do a giant victory lap around the entire yard with the toy and not bring it back to you, what's wrong with that? Right? They're enjoying it. Like, nurture that enjoyment of the game. Don't try to deter it, right? Allow them to do what they want to do in that moment, right? Or things like possession, right? How many dogs do you see that, initially in the play process, when you first start playing with them, you give them the toy and then they kind of try to play keep away. It's like, they'll go over it and go grab it, and then they grab it real quick and go run away, right? And how many owners out there scold the dog for that? They tell them, no, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Which, listen, over time, we have to build some compliance, right? We have to make sure we have control over that. But as we're building drive for the game, which is the first prerequisite, if that's what your dog enjoys doing, go out there and play. Let your dog play, keep away with the ball for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, if the dog is actually acting aggressively or having serious resource and guarding issues, this is a different conversation. But if we're talking about just building drive with your everyday dog that doesn't have major behavioral issues, allow the dog to do the thing they want to do. Figure out what gets your dog going for that game and let them do that thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing I would look at. If we were going to take a dog like Bender and say, how do we build drive? I would look at what part of the game does he like doing, right? If he likes chasing it, let's just play chase it, right? He likes chasing it. So I'm going to throw it. I'm going to let him chase it. I'm going to go grab it again, throw it. And I'm going to have no expectations of him ever even grabbing it. I'm just going to get him having fun going and chasing this thing flying around a little bit, right? Or maybe if he's a chase kind of dog, that might be a dog that's a good fit for something like a flirt pole, which is the pole with the string and the thing at the end of it attached where you can get them to just chase this thing around where they never have to even grab it. You're just channeling that prey drive in them, right? So figure out what they like, build drive for the game. Prerequisite number one, right?
Yeah, he likes to keep away too, in the house.
Sure.
So
yeah. And sometimes, right, that's another great point that you just said, like in the house. As we're building drive for the game, sometimes you have to generalize it. No different than some dogs are really good with sit in the house, but then they go outside and it's too distracting. So nurture that drive in the house until it's really good, and then build it back up outside in a low distracting environment, right? And keep building from there. One thing when I used to do a lot of sport dog work that we would do is before we ever even focused on training, right? Meaning like obedience commands and working, the complexities of the exercises that they were going to need to do. Is we were told with our puppies, go as many places as possible, take them out of the car, just play with them for 5 minutes with no rules, period, right? And put them back in the car and leave and just do that all the time to get the dog building drive for the game in new places, right? And then once you had that drive where you had good engagement out of them, then you could slowly start adding rules to things, right?
Yeah.
So prerequisite number one, build drive for the game. Now listen, again, the whole point for me with the pet dog world of using play is generally to provide physical and mental stimulation, right? So if your dog is not a big player, like Bender, as long as you can provide good outlets for him elsewhere, you don't have to do this, right? So a lot of the dogs we're talking about are going to be ones that kind of out of the box have pretty good drive for the game, right? And with those dogs, you don't have to do a whole lot of this. If they got the drive for the game and you could take them outside and they're going to go chase a ball and have a great time doing it, but there's no control around it, they're almost too amped up for it, then you start moving on to the next kind of rules for this.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So next thing that we have to teach, right? This is the most important one when it comes to playing with your dog, right? Making sure that they drop the toy right away when you ask them to. Right? 99% of the time where things can go horrendously wrong is when you try to get the dog to drop the toy and they don't do it, or they drop it for a second and then you go to grab it and they're immediately jumping back up trying to get it, right? So you've got to teach them how to release that toy on command. Now there's many, many different ways that you can go about doing this, right? I am going to outline the 2 ways that I generally teach my clients to do this, right?
All right.
Way number 1 is we're utilizing the motivation for the game in order to teach them how to drop the toy, right? So a lot of people, here's what they do. They're playing with the dog. Let's say they're tugging, or throwing a ball, whatever. And then they say, drop it. And the dog obviously doesn't drop it right away because they don't know it. So drop it. Finally, the dog drops it. And then as soon as the dog drops it, there's like 5 minutes of you keeping the toy away from the dog, asking the dog to do a gazillion things, stuff like that before you ever even give it back to them, right? So basically, you're signifying to them that when you tell them to drop it, the fun is over, right? And what does that do? That kills all the motivation for not just the game, but their incentive to let the toy go.
Literally, yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be times, once we get further along in things, where we tell them drop it and the game is over, right? Or we tell them drop it and we do need to ask them to do something. But early on in this process, we've got to walk before we run with those types of things. So here's what you're going to start doing initially with your dogs. take something like a tug, a ball, whatever you can get a good grab of while the dog is actively playing with it. Play with them. When you want them to drop it, grab it, tell them drop it, and make the fun stop as soon as you tell them that before they let it go. So you're going to tell them drop it, you're going to hold it totally steady, and you're just going to wait. You're going to wait. Game's kind of boring. Dog might still be trying to play, but you're just waiting. You know, holding it as steady as you can. I know they're probably going to be pulling. It's going to be difficult, obviously.
Yeah.
Wait. The second that their mouth comes off of it, the second they perform the act of dropping it, so we're kind of free shaping it here, right? You tell them, okay, and you give it right back to them, right?
Yeah.
So basically what you're doing is you're utilizing the fact that they want to play the game as reinforcement for the drop it, right? So the second they perform the command, you're rewarding the dog for performing the command by the game immediately starting again. Immediately. I'm talking even early on, if they're really struggling with this, the second the mouth just goes, okay, right? Okay, right? So that the second it comes out of their mouth, you're reinforcing it with the game again, right? So do that. From there, you little by little will start seeing the dog get faster and faster and faster with it. Once the dog, when you immediately say drop it, drops it right away, you give it back to them. Once you have it that fast, you could start building a little bit of duration with it.
Yeah.
Tell them drop it, have them wait 5 seconds, then give it back to them, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we would teach this if we have a dog that's very motivated initially with things. So that's way number one. That usually can happen pretty rapidly. But for some dogs, you'll find that they're just a little too intense with the game, and you've got to add a little bit more of accountability behind obviously dropping it. I always try to start with this method. I always try to start with getting them to release it, just, teaching it in kind of a fair way and reinforcing it with the game and stuff. But if I have a dog that has any sort of history of resource guarding issues, if I've done that before and the dog is kind of just picking and choosing where they're releasing it, if I know the dog does it well because I've taught drop it in other places with something like food rewards or something like that, sometimes I will begin adding a correction in much sooner after the fact in order to provide some accountability and get the job done a little bit quicker. And that would be something like, I could tell them drop it, and if they have a leash and collar on, I can give a little pop if they don't drop it right away. It could be something like a lower e-collar level that the dog's obviously motivated by, but it's nothing too intense, to kind of signify for them to drop it quickly. And anytime I start adding in like punishment for non-compliance of dropping it, I always fully expect that I'm going to have to kind of rebuild the dog back up a little bit after that, because sometimes what'll happen is if the dog's really intense about it, you tell them drop it, they don't drop it, you give them a correction for it. Same deal, that kind of kills a little bit of the fun of the game. So as soon as I gain the compliance of it from correcting for it, I'm going to do a ton of reps allowing the dog to be successful, reinforcing it with the game again, and kind of building them back up with it.
Yeah.
Right? So those are kind of the two ways I'll go about teaching that drop and ensuring that I have it nice and smooth.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's funny because your natural instinct is when something's not doing what you want, you either tense up or you're like still trying to like drop it, and you're actively still playing the game in the dog's mind. So you're just shooting yourself in the foot when you do that.
Yeah, and when I say I have those two ways where I'll either do it with like the game itself or I'll do it utilizing some sort of correction, I think a lot of people give me some flack. They're like, oh, why would you go right into correcting it? It's like, that's not fair to the dog, and you got to teach it in a positive manner and this and that. Here's the problem, right? In a perfect world, we would do it the first way every time, and we would start it when these dogs are nice and young. We would teach it, we would reinforce it, and you'd be good to go with it and not have major problems. At some point, you would have to layer some accountability into it, but you can get most of the work done that way.
Yeah.
The issue is a lot of these dogs we're working with that have really good tug drive or ball drive, like, the owners are so much less strong than the dogs that these dogs can satisfy themselves on the urge of like tugging and grabbing the ball and stuff like that. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do to like stabilize that toy enough to make it not fun for them. Yeah. And you're going to wind up just getting dragged around all over the place, which to your point is still very fun to the dog.
Yeah.
Right. So it's extremely difficult in that case to do it in a positive way, unless you're doing it, with something like a toy switch, which is like, okay, you're playing tug with this one, you tell them drop, and then you present another one right here, and they let go of it to get this one. You can kind of build it that way. Again, there's 1,000,001 ways to teach a drop. some of those start getting into the realm, in my opinion, of like more work than it's worth.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these dogs, you can give them one correction for not dropping it right away. You know, drop, follow it up with a tap, and then your next like 5 reps, they drop it immediately and they understand what it is. And then you could just build on that and like reinforce it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I tend to, with a lot of our clients, unless the dog is like not ridiculously strong, the owner is very capable, I tend to err towards more of the side of, you know, just give the correction, just get it done, you know?
Yeah.
I think having a dog that's more compliant to you and dropping the ball quicker because they know they have to, I think there's a psyche to that that's very important to achieve with your dogs. So,
Heard.
So obviously releasing on command, that's another very important part of it, right? Now the releasing on command, so I think a lot of people look at another rule that there should be when it comes to like playing with your dog as the dog should bring the toy back to you all the time, right? Though I think that that's nice to have, I also don't think that it's as essential as people think that it is. I think that the dog not bringing the toy back to you is generally an issue with them being a little bit too guardy of the toy, which in turn means that they're not quick to release the toy to you, right? If they feel like they could play keep away with that and that they're never going to give it to you, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously not going to bring it back to you.
Yeah.
I think once you solve the releasing the toy on command, I think in many cases the dog starts organically bringing it back to you, or you could shape it much more easily after the fact by throwing the toy, they go get it, maybe they come back halfway, you tell them drop, and you just go grab it, and they start realizing the closer they get to you, the closer the game starts again. You know what I mean? If not, I mean, there's ways to teach that. If like you use a long line for it, you kind of reel the dog back in. You could start implementing something like a come command. There's ways to do it, but I don't think that that is as essential of a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So, I would say with my dogs, like Vera and Vinny are the ones that really like playing Chuck It. And Vinny brings it back every time. He's like just programmed at this point through all the training we've done to just like grab it, bring it back, grab it, bring it back, grab it, bring it back. Vera, on the other hand, she'll grab it, and she's the one that kind of likes like trotting around with the ball a little bit, you know, and she'll kind of come back halfway and then just like chew on the ball for a minute. So, and it's never something I really cared a whole lot about with her. Like I said, if I did, you know, cool, yeah, long line, get her back all the way, make sure she understands bringing it in all the way, but it's just not as essential to me, right? Sure. So, next one here, compliance around the toy, right? So once you have good drive for the game, once you have the dog releasing the toy right away for you, obviously, the next thing that we can start utilizing is making sure the dog can be clear-headed enough while playing that game to be compliant to different commands, right? So usually I'll do like maybe a down command or a sit command or, you know, working obviously a stay in the downs and the sits or a heel position or something like that. And I'll start shaping those things into the game, right? And a lot of times you'll find that initially when you go to do this, the dog is like so gung-ho focused on the game that they can't listen to any of the commands that you're asking them to do. And you just have to build it back up with that, right? Ask for the command. You could use the toy to lure them into the command, reinforce that command right away by throwing the ball again for them or giving the tug back to them. Your play is your reinforcement. That is your positive reinforcement in this game, right? Yeah. So if they're not being compliant to it, you have to give direction and show them what to do in order to be compliant to it, right? So I would start working some of those types of things around them. And that would build into impulse control around the toy when it's being thrown, right? So once I know that I can get the dog to have drive for the game, release the toy right away, and be compliant around the toy, then I start practicing the really hard impulse control issues, right? Which is I put them into a down, I actually throw the ball, and I make them wait in that down position before I have them go get it and build on that. And that's where I have some videos here of exactly kind of what I did with that with my dogs. So,
okay,
let's see what we got. Okay, so here are the videos that I took from today. So basically, I've got just a handful that I took of a handful of different exercises I was working. Some are just of the release process, the running and getting it, bringing it back. But then, so Vera and Vinny, 2 of my 4 dogs, like I said, those are my most ball motivated dogs, if you will.
Okay.
And Vinny, I play with somewhat regularly. Vera, maybe a couple years ago, had like a partially torn ACL, so I stopped playing with her for like quite a long time after that. And recently, I've started adding some of the game back in as she's gotten more healthy and able to do so. But because of that, she's a little sloppy with some of the expectations with these things, and I haven't worked this stuff in a long time. So I figured I would take this as an opportunity. I got the inspiration from Michael Ellis's video that we did last time, where he showed 6 repetitions or whatever of how quickly a dog can figure something out.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with her, where I had the box checked of the drive for the game, right? She knew how to release it on command. That's never been a big issue with her. She could be compliant around the toy. She would listen to basic commands around it, but she did not have the impulse control when the toy was thrown. It was just like too much of a distraction for her. When I would go to throw that thing, she was just programmed to just like go chase it, right? So that was the specific aspect of it that we worked on that we're going to kind of watch here. So I'm just going to take these one at a time. Some of these might even just be throwaway videos. I don't know. So we'll start one at a time with these. Oh, God, it brings it over here. Hang on. All right, so here's number 1. So we've got, oh, you know what? Are these backwards? Yeah, that's backwards. That's the last one. Let's do this one. All right. So here's number 1. This, I think, is them just chasing the ball in the field. Down. Okay. So that was a demonstration with Vinny of the last step, which is impulse control when thrown, right? So that's what this hypothetically should look like. So I'll show it one more time. Down. So gave the command, compliance right away. Okay. Threw the ball, then released him, right? Vera wasn't doing any of that at that point. I didn't work on the compliance around it. I just had drive for the game, and I had release on command.
Yep.
Right? So that's number 1. So let's move on to number 2. Here is, let's see what this is. Down. No. Vera. Down. No. Down. Okay. So that repetition you see was she downed on command, but the second I would raise the wand up, she popped out to go run for it.
Yep.
Right? So in this case, they obviously all have e-collars on. I'm not actually using any e-collar corrections for this, right? What we're utilizing is we're utilizing negative punishment. So I'm withholding something that she wants, which is the game, in order to deter a behavior. And I'm deterring the behavior of obviously her chasing the ball and breaking that down command before I want her to, right? And you'll see I had to do it 2 times with her, and then she got it, and then I threw the ball, reinforcing exactly what we wanted. Watch it one more time. Down. No. Vera. Down. No. Down. Okay. Now something to notice. Notice in that video, as soon as I threw it and saw she was holding it, I released her for it.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting, throwing it, making her wait there for 10 seconds or anything. It's the first rep. As soon as I got compliance, we're reinforcing what it is we want. Just like we talked about with the release, right? Yeah. Tug, 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 say out. The second they spit it out, boom, give it right back to them. Right? Yeah. You want to reinforce as close to what it is that you want as possible in this case, right? So that's rep number 2. Rep number, no, this is rep number 2, sorry. Out. So right there, demonstrating releasing the ball quickly. Down. Compliance around the ball. No. Down. Okay. So that time you see it took 1 time, right? Yeah. She broke it 1 time, held it, immediately releasing for it. And the next one. So this is rep 3. Down. No. Down. Okay. So I'm improving with it. That time broke it one time, but what you'll also notice is how I'm using successive approximation, so building towards the goal here, right? Actually, technically, this would not be successive approximation. What I'm using is I'm gradually making it more challenging quicker for the dog, right? So basically what I'm doing is the first repetition, I noticed that immediately when I went to raise it, that was too much of a distraction for her, where she held it. So the first few reps, I just practiced going up, and I worked on that distraction first, right? Then I worked on going up, making sure she held it, then going up and throwing it, right? Obviously, she made mistakes with it. This repetition, I went right to throwing it, right? So you'll see it one more time here. Down. No. So went right to throwing it, right? Okay. So I'm making it more challenging for her. Instead of babying her through it, I'm going right to you. Just got to hold it when I throw it. And here's the next. So this is rep 4, I believe. Out. Down. No. Down. Same deal. Threw it right away. Okay.
Waited for full compliance.
Waited for full compliance. So rep 5. Out. Down. No. Down. Okay. Okay. Very good. Now, a couple things to highlight with this particular video. First and foremost, I want you to watch the out from the second I say out to when that ball hits the ground with Vinny. Out. Down. Almost instantaneous. Now, I tell everybody with their outs, right? Or you drop it, whatever word you want to use, it doesn't matter. It has to be that fast.
Yeah.
It has to be that fast. Because if the dog decides every single time you tell them out, they're still kind of guarding it in their mind a little bit. You tell them out and they're like,
I don't know.
All right. You want immediate compliance with it. Hold this stuff to that standard. Now, you'll get that from a mix of one, reinforcing the second they spit it out, right? Because they learn the quicker I let this go, the quicker the game starts again. And two, correcting once you've done that, correcting rapidly after you give that drop command, obviously, right? Second thing to notice here, right? How much faster she fixes herself when I throw it, because she's starting to connect the dots of what to do. So this is rep, what did I say, 6?
5 or 6, yeah.
I think 6. No. Down. Okay. And okay. Obviously, I had to tell her okay twice because, obviously she's really trying to figure this out here right now. But I released her immediately as soon as she hit the ground, but she hit the ground so much faster than the repetition right before.
Yeah.
Then we get to this one. This is where she connected the dots. So this is rep 7 and on. Out. Down. Okay. Good job.
Nice.
Out. Down. Okay.
Dang.
And I just let this go so people believe me when I say that was literally, the dots were connected.
Yeah.
Right? 7, 8, 9, 10. Out. Down. Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, other thing to highlight that wasn't on my rules of play. So obviously, most of the time when you're doing this, I recommend doing this with just one dog at a time, right? Make it nice and easy.
Yeah.
Don't run into any competition issues, stuff like that. Obviously, I'm doing it with actually 4 of mine out. The other 2 are just less interested in the game, so they're around somewhere else. But the reason why I'm able to do this without there being competition amongst them is because of the fact that I've established so much control, They're not so far gone and so far in that neurotic state of mind that they can't keep their shit together, that as soon as they jump on that ball, if both of them are close to it together, they're going to start fighting with each other. They're in a compliant state of mind because of all of this work that I've done with them. Now, am I going to make them down while I throw it every single time? Absolutely not, right? The biggest thing with obedience commands, and this is whether you're playing with your dogs or whether you're working on like doorway manners. Doorway manners is a great one, right? When I go let my dogs out in the morning, I'm not making them wait at the fucking door. I open the door, get the fuck out, right? I open it, they're blasting out that door as I'm opening it, right? But I'm able to do that because I know if I needed to get them to wait at that door, I could do it instantaneously. I could get them to do it right away, right? A lot of these things we do from a training standpoint of ensuring compliance around certain triggers is a prerequisite so we could give the freedom, knowing that when we give the freedom, if it gets too far, we could reel it back in very, very rapidly. Yeah. Right? So most of the time when I'm playing with them, it's literally just throw the ball, they bring it back, they let go, I grab it, throw the ball. You know what I mean? It's like just going through the motions of it. And I sprinkle these in every now and then just to make sure that I'm going through this stuff. So all these rules of play, right? They're more prerequisites of play. That if you want to have a healthy play relationship with your dog should be able to do all of these things. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, will you be able to play with your dog if you don't have all of these things established? Like, yeah, right? Will you be able to get away with it with a lot of dogs? Yeah, you absolutely will. Even if the dog doesn't let it go right away. There's plenty of dogs that you just go out and play with, and it's going to be fine. Yeah, right? 100% fine. But will the game be more enjoyable for everybody when there's rules? Yes. Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. Look at it like if you're out playing a sport. If there was no rules to football, right? Sure, you can go out and probably have fun and tackle each other and throw the ball and catch it and stuff like that. But it's going to be more enjoyable when everybody's playing towards a certain goal. Yeah. Right? Or with your dog, when you guys are playing towards a certain goal, the dog knows the expectation of them. You know the expectation of yourself and the dog. And you could go out and you could be connected while you're doing so. You're just going to get so much more out of it. Yeah. Right? And that's why this stuff is important. And every now and then I post some videos like this kind of highlighting some of the rules and the level of control you should have around your dogs when it comes to these things. And everybody's always so impressed by it. And it's one of those things where I think it was Chinook Canine said it best on one of the podcasts that we had with him, where he said, you know, so few people are focused, like so many people have issues with their dogs when they're in a state of drive. Yeah. Right? So instead of trying to like suppress the drive constantly, let's just train the dog while they're in drive. Now, I think that's a really great statement and absolutely true. Obviously, there's some nuance to that conversation, right? Of we do want to look to decrease drive in some places, obviously. But if you could look at something like this, which is two dogs gung fucking ho for a ball, right? And I could train them and get them into a clear-headed state of mind while they're in drive. That's going to make it so much easier for me to gain that same level of control if you run into an emergency situation where they're chasing an animal, right? Or in a similar prey-driven state of mind, right? So that's why we focus on these types of things. And I also just think it's cool to see the progression of like rep number 1 when she couldn't even like keep her shit under control, you know, to rep 2. To perfect control, relaxed compliance around it, clear-headed, you know, understanding the expectation. This last one, I think, was just walking back to the house. So at the end of the session, you know, how do we end the game? Same deal. I try to work some degree of control into it. This was actually a little bit sloppy, if I recall. Let's see. There's the other two just over it. They're like, can we go back home? You're out. Good. Immediate compliance with the dropping of it. Come. No, come. And then we focus on just walking calmly back to the house then after. Yeah. Right? So making sure that we end on a nice relaxed note, making sure we end with the dog still focused on us, making sure that we end compliant. Right?
Yeah, and a big thing that would impress people immediately above all is that you have 4 dogs in your vicinity just, relaxed, but just not doing anything. Like they're staying in your vicinity, staying calm, staying relaxed. That's something in itself to note,
Yeah, and listen, they're all tired at that point. Like I was playing with them out there for probably, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It was a nice, good workout for everybody. They all liked it. They were all nice and chilled out after the fact. But it's all because of the rules, right?
Yeah.
It's all because of the rules we put in place. I mean, you wouldn't believe, I'm sure there are people on this podcast that could relate to, like, when you go to end the game with your dog, if you don't have rules established and you have no impulse control with your dog, it's a shit show, right? You go to put that toy away and they're just freaking out, jumping on you, trying to get into wherever it is that you're putting it and stuff, right? Because of all these rules, they realize, like, the game's, it's over, right? You're not getting it back right now, and they don't feel so emboldened and like entitled to like push you around for it. And it sounds contradicting because at the beginning of this podcast I said in building drive for the game, if you have a dog that doesn't have a ton of drive for it, like my 2 there did, like my other 2, they're not super into the game. If I wanted to focus on building that drive with them, I could, and I would just start with those basics of figuring out what it is that they like in that process and nurturing it and building it from there until I have the intensity that I'm looking for. Then I look to cap it and add rules to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool.
Those are just quick rules that I kind of put together as far as how I handle a lot of this kind of stuff. But I think it's something to think about. If you have a very ball-driven dog, tug-driven dog, tug is the exact same process. You would do all the same things with it, right? The only difference is you're playing as opposed to obviously throwing it. So like looking at these different things, drive for the game, obviously in playing, releasing on command while you're holding it as opposed to it just being in their mouth. Compliance around the toy after you ask them to drop it, ask them to down, and then have them come back for the tug. And then impulse control when thrown. You could do throwing it. Obviously, your tug you could throw. Or you could put them in a down and like almost kind of tease them with it a little bit and make sure that they hold it.
Yeah.
So it's the same exact process, right? Or a flirt pole or any type of toy that you would be playing with your dog that you could have control over. And then the last thing I'll kind of say on this is these games, like balls, tugs, things like that, unrelated to the rule, I guess it's kind of a rule, these are interactive toys, right? Because they get the dogs into such a frenzied state of mind, I'm very mindful of, one, not allowing them to just like self-soothe on those toys when I'm not engaging with them. I want to use them as leverage for my training or for very particular areas that I'm going to be letting them burn off steam. And 2, I'm very mindful of where I play these games. Getting back to where we want to create arousal or where we want to kind of suppress arousal. Those dogs were jacked up in that video, obviously. So you'll notice they were in a field, not even in my backyard, but a field like behind my house that I was playing with them. And that's the only place that I'll play with it, with them. Or if I'm at a park somewhere, I'll play in the field there maybe. But if I see so many people play these games in their house with their dog and they just nurture and create this frenzied state of mind like in the home, that could be really, really hard to combat. You create a lot of obsessive tendencies and stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Like, if you're wanting a calmer state in your household, maybe not.
Don't play the high drive games.
Don't play the high drive game in the house.
We don't do anything like that. I only do like calming, non-interactive toys in the house. So like chews, right? Nylabone Dura chews, deer antlers, soup bones, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
No one needs a full octane Vinny in the living room.
Yeah, seriously. References here. Obviously, if you're interested in learning on like building, like I think there's probably a lot of people also out there that want to learn how to kind of build drive with their dogs. Couple videos to look into. The Possession Games by Ivan Balabanov. Obviously is a great one that kind of gets into the weeds with that. It's more of like an overall kind of play video. And then Michael Ellis, The Advanced Concepts and Motivation. There's segments in it on building drive with things like toy.
Yeah.
And I think he has a video called The Power of Play as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me confirm that.
Power of Play.
Michael Ellis, The Power of Play. Yeah, The Power of Playing Tug with Your Dog. Yeah. That will get into creating some drive and things like that. So
yeah.
that one's a little bit old. The possession games is not new exactly, but I think it's quite a bit newer than the power of playing tug with your dog.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
So take a look at those, obviously. And, yeah, if you guys have any questions on any of that, let me know.
For sure.
And we'll kind of go from there. Play with your dogs.
Play with your dogs.
But have rules with the play with your dogs.
Structured play.
Catch you guys next time.
Bye.